Let's see here. Let's go with this bad boy. What do you say here? He is the right rev of speed. On the show, he's the right rev of rev. Everywhere else, he's a widely respected motorsports writer. NBCSports.com and Sirius Radio and a bunch of other publications that, well, if he wants to, he can tell us, because I have a feeling this segment's going to go a little long. Jerry Bonkowski. Hey, it's race week in Bristol, Food City 500. Just to start with, I guess, I was talking at the start of my show, and we've talked, and in NASCAR this year, I've thought the distinctive styling. I mean, finally, it's like the old days. You can just look at the track, first glance, don't have to study, oh, that's a Mustang. It makes that impact right away. Like, really, I don't think race cars have since standpoint. Do you think that that might be the low point for Bristol, that they introduced the turkey, so to speak? The car of tomorrow was not necessarily a good thing for NASCAR. It took away the styling. I was reading how it made Airborne. There was a lot of parody and all this. And I just was kind of curious. It debuted 12 years ago, Food City 500. And I'm sort of like, is that sort of the thing that they're saying, oh, geez, it had to happen here in debut. Don't hold that against us, guys. Is that sort of that moment, that sort of low moment for the track, in your opinion, would you say?
Oh, no, not at all. No, I don't, you have to remember, we go back 12 years about this whole, and there was a lot of optimism. There was a lot of, positive vibe. I mean, but there was also a lot of unknown, because it was such a radical change from the previous generation. It didn't quite, I think, in my opinion, reach the level that NASCAR wanted it to reach, and as a result, they want to go into the Gen 6 after that. So, you can't say that just because it debuted at Bristol, that was the start of the bad or the low point of the car tomorrow. I mean, it was an idea. They thought it was a good idea at the time, and it just didn't quite play out as well as I think NASCAR officials had hoped it would play out.
Elements of this race, I guess, and so you can say that it is a footnote in the history of BMS rather than some sort of shame in all this. But I do ask this: what was your thoughts on Jenna Fryer's column? Very critical of Darrell Waltrip as a broadcaster. I guess that it was announced here soon afterwards that he is retiring, and this will be his last go-around as a color commentator. I'm sure you saw the piece. What were your thoughts on the events, certainly in the broadcast booth this week?
Well, I typically don't like to comment yay or nay about another writer's. And she did raise some the thoughts that she felt, illustrated, to back up her reasoning, if you will. Sad day for NASCAR. It'll be a sad day when DW has his final broadcast after the studio roll or something like that. But it seemed for his announcement yesterday was he quits for good. And I mean, let's face it, this guy not only is a legend in racing, as far as a driver, he's a Hall of Famer, but he also is a legend in broadcasting. He brought so much to the FOX broadcast from 2001 to 2019. I mean, that's 18, 19 seasons. I mean, I understand where Jenna was coming from. There may be a guy like DW, for all the great things he did for the sport, for all the accomplishments he had, he was from another era. And NASCAR is trying to attract fans of, the current era, fans of, the millennials, the younger people than that. And, and Jenna made some points about maybe there wasn't that much of a, like Darrell. And I could kind of see some of the things she said. I didn't necessarily agree with everything she said, but I think that, the way she said it, she put it out there in a form that, she backed up what she believed. And I'm not going to criticize her for that.
I do get her point, and in fact, it's something that I tried and have been told, am I making too many historical references? Should I have referenced the historical legacy of the car of tomorrow starting up? Although I would opening monologue in the show and talking about how excited I am for being able to see the Mustangs race this year. styling was taken away by COT and all that 12 years ago and such. But I guess one of the things that I've noticed with Darrell Waltrip, and I've interviewed him myself, is just the enthusiasm and what I would call the heartland appeal that he brings to the broad. Very important. You can talk about young baseball fan in the 80s. I loved listening to Joe Garagiola, even if he was making references to Jim Greengrass. I remember him calling the 1982 World Series and having most hits in a World Series game. It was fun to listen to, and nobody loved it. And that sort of enthusiasm transpired to the broadcast. I don't think we've had it before. Maybe that, I think before. Maybe we did have the Heartland appeal, Kurt Gowdy, Dizzy Dean, so I take that. But we haven't had it since on a network broadcast. I think Darrell Waltrip, the NASCAR broadcast. We wait for Boogity, Boogity, Boogity. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's the architect of It's Bristol, Baby. Loved the track, that sort of thing. And I don't have a problem with referencing, a race from the 80s or whenever, because I do think that if we lose Darrell Waltrip, we are losing some heartland.
To an extent, possibly, but that being said, you've got a guy sitting next to Darrell, in the person of Jeff Gordon, who is going to become, has been a great broadcaster already. He's going to continue to develop a greater broadcaster, in my opinion, in the coming years. And, with Darrell stepping down, Jeff essentially steps into Darrell's. He has that heartland appeal because, he spent most of his formative years prior to getting to NASCAR in Indiana. I mean, you can't get more heartland than Indiana.
Yeah, but does he have the same humor? That sort of thing. Does he have that sort of charm?
Well, they're two different kind of people with two different kinds of sense of humor. I mean, Jeff, I've been around Jeff a number of times, and, he can be very, very funny. And, whereas W is very funny as well, but I think that, and I'm going to go back to what one of the things that Jenna Fryer said in her column was the relevance. I mean, for the fans of today, and I'm talking from 8 to, let's say, 35 to 40. The relevance is there with the Jeff Gordon. The relevance was not there, though, with Darrell Waltrip, because he would always reflect back on what was 30, 40, 50 years ago. And a lot of the fans, I think that, Darrell has done a great job. He's commended. He gets inducted back into the NASCAR Hall of Fame as a broadcaster as well, too. I think he could be the first two-time inductee. I believe that's possible. But my point is, though, that Jeff Gordon is certainly going to be a great shepherd going forward, for the modern day fans, the young fans, because they can relate to him. There is that relevance there.
I guess it's just I've always had an interest in sports history or something. I've always found, I know that I'll be part of the future. I don't not look forward to it, but I know that'll be a good story. But I look to, when they tried to run convertibles in the first Daytona 500, that's what started drafting. I think that is something that every race car fan needs to know. It's that significant a part of the sport and such, and that gives you an appreciation of today as well. My opinion. Now, I don't know how much, Darrell Waltrip is talking about that specifically, but it's one of the things where I say when you can give the historical perspective, that I think it's rather important. Like I said, I never had a problem with Joe Garagiola talking about Jim Greengrass and a home plate collision. I used to look up his record in the Baseball Encyclopedia. Same things that I go online to find out about historical races or so that Darrell Waltrip may be referencing. I mean, that's sport. That is my opinion. I
agree with you, Marky, but your generation, my generation, we're both pretty much in almost our generations overlap, and we value the past. We value what the modern day race fan, the 18 to 35 or 40, they may value the past to an extent, but I think that generation is more inclined to look at the now and the future as opposed to the now and the past. There's a very big difference there.
No, I get that. and I guess I look at it, as sort of a guy who tells stories and all this. And I was saying this. It's not that I want to be, I don't want the future, but I know the story. I know that there's an old story that can be uncovered, if you will, that also is great, that will give us a historical impact. Now, you can say I'm trying to go a little too deep on Darrell Waltrip here. I get it. Okay. But I just, like I said, I never mind Darrell Waltrip. I guess that's what I took out there. And I do think that there is something to be said for Heartland appeal. Like I said, I mentioned Garagiola, and nowadays baseball broadcasts I don't think have that, and I think that that's prevented it from being something of an everyman sport and such. I think NASCAR could learn from that and all. There's a lot.
By the way, speaking of Joe Garagiola, I still have some audio tapes that I made off the TV from. I don't know. I'm going to probably date you on this one. You remember the TV show Joe?
Oh, it's a little bit before I was watching baseball. I know of it. Yeah.
They could, if somebody could put together a DVD of all those shows, phenomenal stuff. I mean, phenomenal stuff. And but I recorded a number of the shows. I mean, it was just the audio track. I didn't have, the video, obviously, because this was back in the early 70s, I guess it would have been.
Mm-hmm.
But, I still remember some of the stuff. I mean, he even had one show that stood out in my mind, about baseball cards. It was like it was yesterday. I still remember that show. He talked a lot, back in when Henry Aaron was chasing.
This race here, but can you stay through the break?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it's Jerry Bonkowski, the right rev of speed, or as we say here locally, the right rev of rev. And we got the Food City 500 coming up. I'm excited. I'm sure you are. Tri-City Sports Now.